How's it going, church? Pastor Ryan here. I wanted to make a quick video updating on the information meeting we had last night for Boniface Christian Academy. We intended to have that information meeting recorded, and just in the mix of things, and we were getting a Google Meet going, and it just didn't happen. So I wanted to make a recap video for those who were able to attend. We were told everyone we were going to record that meeting, so I wanted to make a substitute recording for you guys to be able to use. On this email that got sent out to the church, I attached a handout for basically the information meeting notes. So you can look at that PDF. If you're watching this just on YouTube, reach out to the church, email me. Some way I'd be glad to get you this handout so you have this information. But I'll just quickly hit the highlights. And we talked for close to an hour at the meeting. I'm not going to make an hour long video here recapping everything we discussed, but I want to at least hit the highlights. And the first is, why are we doing a Christian homeschool co-op for Boniface Christian Academy? Initially, we had proposed doing a 5-day a week, really full-time classical Christian, or 4-day a week full-time classical Christian school. And the reason we shifted to more of the homeschool co-op direction is because we really felt like missionally God has put us in a community where homeschooling is more feasible for a lot of our families. Is what a lot of our families are already doing. But particularly with the nature of us being a highly military community, the type of model we were proposing is not something that families could replicate when they moved on to their next duty station. And we just didn't feel like that was missionally practical to be offering a type of education that most military families it would not benefit. Just didn't make sense for where God has providentially put our church. Whereas a homeschool co-op, they could benefit from the unique nature of this co-op that we're putting out, and then still continue in their homeschooling endeavors wherever the Lord sends them. And so we're excited about that. But our core mission behind why we want to do some sort of ministry like this in general hasn't changed. And that's based on Ephesians 6:4, that God, through Paul, under the inspiration of the Spirit, called parents to raise their children in the paideia of the Lord. And that Greek word paideia encaptures the total raising of a child, not merely the training from a head knowledge sort of thing, but the total enculturation of a child. That includes their education, their physicality, their character, their morals, their socialization, all of those things in the Lord for the kingdom of Christ. And we want to help partner with families to raise their children in the paideia of the Lord. That's our heart behind what we're doing. If you haven't already heard the story of Boniface and why we're naming the academy Boniface Christian Academy, Boniface is a wonderful character from church history. And the highlights of what he did was he went into Germany before it was Germany many, many years ago. And the culture there was worshiping the old Norse gods, and they were brutal people committing human sacrifices and just barbaric violence of all kinds. And Boniface turned down some high church offices in order to go be a missionary to these people. And at the center of their religion, where he was going, was this great mighty tree, is referred to in different names. Some of them were the Thor's oak, or the Donner oak, or the juniper oak. I've heard all three of those used, but there was this mighty tree that they would worship as the symbol of this pagan religion that they had, this barbaric religion. And Boniface, full of the Spirit, seeing this image as the central idol of this culture, intended to cut it down for the sake of Christ's glory, much in the spirit of Elijah, or you think of Gideon and destroying the altars of Baal and Asherah that we just read about in Judges. He saw this symbol of their false worship and knew that he had to cut down. So he made clear to the community, I'm going to chop this down. There's even correspondence that went back and forth between the higher church offices that were sending him as a missionary, that he intended to cut this down. He made it very well known. It wasn't some fit of rage, that sort of thing. And he went and he chopped down this Donner oak in front of all these watching pagan worshipers, and they're expecting Thor himself to strike him dead with a bolt of lightning as he does this. But as he chops down this tree, he's left unscathed, and many of the onlookers convert to Christ that day, seeing that their gods were powerless but his God was powerful. And one of my favorite parts about this story is that he uses that tree that he chopped down in order to construct a chapel that these newly converted Christians would then worship the one true and living God in. And so this is a powerful illustration. I wrote on this handout that our prayer is that students come to be formed in this co-op. We will help them to sharpen their axes to wield for the sake of Christ's kingdom and glory, to raise up bold and courageous heralds of the gospel who are thoroughly prepared to chop down the idols of our age and construct a great cathedral from the ruins. The namesake and legacy of Boniface serve as a powerful illustration of this vision we have for our students and what they will accomplish as they are sent out into the world. Now, this co-op we are seeking to run really has three primary principles, values that we want to run through how and why we do what we do. The first is there'll be lordship focused. We want there be no neutrality. Everything we do under the lordship of Christ, from our chapel service through all the particular courses we offer, they want to be done through this model of being lordship focused. We don't believe there's any neutrality. Sometimes these Christian education or Christian co-ops, they can run in a largely secular way with just sort of a Christian veneer to them. We reject that wholeheartedly. We want to connect everything to the reign of Christ and what we do. The second aspect of it is going to be church run. This is a ministry of our local church, and thus it'll be under the oversight of the elders. We're going to largely subsidize this by using our church building and funds. We want to run this as a ministry of our church under the oversight of our church, and really feel like this fits in our mission as a church to glorify God and make disciples, which discipleship is training, it's education. Sometimes we divorce discipleship from education, but the biblical worldview certainly does that. It doesn't understands disciples as learners, as those that are being educated. And so we feel this is crucial to the mission of our church. And thirdly, and what I'm really excited about that's going to make this a unique co-op, I think, is that it'll be elective oriented. So rather than having all students come and all of them receive the same education basically as they come through the co-op, they're going to have electives that they can select that are going to be great complements to their who they are, their personality, their gifts, their talents, the things that excite them, but also their weaknesses, the areas of growth for them. They can take electives in order to grow up and be built in those things. And so as students come, everyone will have chapel service together for 45 minutes, the whole group. And then from there, they'll break off into 3 45-minute electives throughout the morning that they can select from. And these electives are going to cover the whole range of theology, history, sciences, music, art, cooking, sewing, physical training, sports, and more. We've already have 5 or 6 people that have raised their hands saying they're willing to teach. So we're really excited about what we're going to be able to offer in these electives. And the goal in all of these electives is to connect them again to the paideia. How do we learn all things for the glory of God? Even you think of our bodies and the physical training. How do we train our bodies in order to be useful for Christ's kingdom? None of these things are disconnected. How do we use the arts in order to glorify God? How do we use music in order to glorify God? All of those things are created for Christ in order to bring him glory. And we want to show students how all of life can be lived unto the glory of God through this academy. 3 crucial aspects to success. And if you don't know, I'm just following through the handout that we're given here, that we discussed last night. The 3 crucial aspects to this academy's success. First will be the Lord's blessing. One of my favorite verses, Psalm 127:1, unless the Lord builds the house, those who build it labor in vain. We believe that if the Lord doesn't bless this ministry, it won't work. So we're trusting the Lord's blessing. The second will be parental involvement. It is a co-op, which means we need to cooperate together as families. This will not be a drop-off campus. You leave your kids here and say good luck. No, all parents will be involved. Not all parents will be teachers. In fact, a lot of members of our church who don't have kids in the home are offering to teach. But all parents need to be involved, participating, helping, whether that be in the nursery or as assistants in the classroom or helping with the preparation of materials. All kinds of different ways they can be involved, but all parents will need to serve in this co-op. And the third is church member support. As the ministry of our local church, members will need to both serve in order for this to be possible, but also as they are caught on to the vision, to help give towards its ends. Now, part of that is just through their general giving to the church. As the church, we're going to subsidize some of the cost of this, as members are just tithing to the church. That's partially how they'll support it. But then, as well, if they are passionate about the work we're doing, particular gifts to that end is going to be partially how this is possible. All right, so some Q&As, different questions people might have about this co-op, how it's going to run. First is what grade/ages will be enrolling. Any child who's in the home can participate in this. So it doesn't just begin at kindergarten. We're going to have different options for pre-K, and even we plan to have a nursery that's offered as well. So moms who say have a nursing child, that sort of thing, are still able to participate and teach because the nursery will be provided. And then those kids that aren't in kindergarten yet, we want them to be educated when they come, not just put in daycare while they're here, but give them instruction in these things. It might look different than those blocks that some of the older students will be engaging in, the block electives, but we want to have something offered for all kids that are in the home from nursing babes through 18 years old. And so we're excited to offer that full range in the academy. How large will the academy be? We don't know exact enrollment, but our goal is not to build a massive institution, but a really good one. So we're not going to just open the floodgates, as many kids as we can get enrolled. That's not our goal. We really want families who are involved in this to be a good fit for the co-op. We are trying to give our kids a really quality education as opposed to just covering as many kids as possible. And so we really believe that this will be a ministry that extends beyond just the families of our church. We're excited to welcome families who are not necessarily members of our church. So if you're watching this and attend in our church, certainly you're open to bring your family into this, and we would love to have your family if you're a good fit. But we're not trying to make this some massive ministry. We want it to be a really high quality ministry. All right, so that's our goal as far as the scope of the academy. Do families who participate need to use the same homeschool curriculum? No, they do not, because we're elective based rather than what unifies the co-op is everyone being the same curriculum. For example, our family has done classical conversation for years. We love classical conversations, a wonderful program, but one of the unifiers of that particular homeschool co-op is all the families are doing the same curriculum. That's not going to be the unifying core for this. Rather, this is open for all serious Christians who are trying to raise their children in the Lord and are using a number of different curriculums, whether that's Memoria or Apologia or Master Books or all those different, high quality curriculums that are out there. And they can come and participate in this. And even families who are part of another co-op, say members of Classical Conversations like we've been a part of for years, could totally do this in conjunction with that, because there's no competition between what we're trying to do and the work that they're doing. And so certainly a number of curriculums are able to participate um, in this. Parents do not need to teach in order to participate, but they do need to volunteer. This will not be a drop-off campus, so you can't drop off your kids at 9, come pick them up at 1. A parent or a guardian will be here. We're open to working with families that say maybe a grandparent or something comes with the kids on occasion. We're willing to try to facilitate that sort of thing with families if that's necessary, but it's not going to be something that you just leave your kids and come pick them up later. What will chapel's time involve? There'll be a daily chapel every time we meet. I'm really excited for this. I'm going to be helping lead and run this time. And what we will do during chapel service we'll have singing, we'll have short instruction from God's word, and as well, we're going to be going through the Baptist Catechism so that all kids who are raised up in Boniface over time learn the entirety of the Baptist Catechism, which if you haven't learned that before, I think even the parents are really going to enjoy that part of the instruction. Most of us were not taught that as children. For centuries, catechism was how we taught the faith of doctrine to children and to young adults in the faith, and it's just kind of been a lost art. And by God's grace, there's been a wonderful resurgence and recovery of catechesis, which is just question and answer. It's not Catholic, it's not anything like that. but it's a wonderful way to teach children the truth of the faith. And we're going to particularly learn the Baptist Catechism through a resource by Founders Ministry that put them all to song, which I think learning the catechism with song is an incredibly helpful way to memorize that and root those truths in the heart. So we're excited about that time. That'll be mandatory. Any participating family must be at chapel every week and they must be on time. Consistently being late would be cause for being removed from the co-op. We really are going to highly value the priority of beginning with chapel each time we meet. And so that leads to the next question. What will the daily schedule be for the co-op? As the co-op will begin sharply at 9 a.m. That's when chapel starts. Everyone must be there on time and ready for chapel to start, not merely walking in the door and dropping off bags. They must be in the sanctuary ready for chapel to begin right at 9 a.m. Because of that, we're going to open the doors a full 45 minutes early so families can come, get settled, but they need to be in the room and ready at 9 a.m. And then after chapel, which will end at 9:45, they'll go into 3 different blocks throughout the morning. First one beginning at 9:50 for 45 minutes, second one began at 10:40 for 45 minutes, and the last one beginning at 11:30 for 45 minutes, which will bring us to 12:15. And then from 12:15 to 12:45, we'll have lunch together in the fellowship hall. So people will pack their own lunch to bring those, enjoy that fellowship and breaking of bread with one another at the end of a long morning of learning and hopefully some rigorous and joyful instruction. And then from 12:45 to 1 o'clock, there'll be a campus-wide cleaning. That is mandatory as well. Just as chapel is required, so is the cleanup afterwards. This is a ministry of our local church. We can't trash the building and then just run out the door, expect someone else to do it. No, we're all learning together while serving together, and we all need to care for the facility together. So that'll be a part of it. So everyone that participates needs to make that commitment that they're going to be there from 9 all the way to 1 each week. How will students select their preferred electives? Once we get the course offering schedule ready, at the beginning of July, families will be sent an enrollment packet. And basically, what each kid with their parents will do is select their like top 5, for example, course electives, and then we're going to do our best in order to facilitate those decisions for them. I'm optimistic that for most families, especially if they enroll quickly, they'll be able to get their top choices. If they don't get their top 3, if that's not possible, then they'll get their certainly top 4, that sort of thing, and top 5. Between their top 5, I don't see any reason why early on we won't be able to facilitate those. And if there is any conflict, we'll do our best to make sure they're getting in classes that are going to be beneficial and fruitful for them. The way the semester is going to lay out, we're going to run the co-op on a semester by semester basis. And the first semester, which will start in fall of 23, begins the last Thursday of August, which is August 31st, and it runs through the first Thursday in December, December 7th. There'll be 12 times we meet on campus here at the church. There'll be 2 field trip days, which are off campus, which are optional. So families don't need to participate in that, but Lord willing, they'll want to join us for those field trips. And then there'll be a Thanksgiving break, obviously meeting on Thursdays. Thanksgiving falls on a Thursday. We won't meet for the co-op on that day. And our plan is for this co-op is to run it on a semester by semester basis, as opposed to thinking of it as a whole annual calendar year. And the reason for that is just with the electives, it makes more sense to schedule those semester by semester rather than annually, because a lot of courses we offer might just be a single semester course. Well, there's others might build upon each other. There'll be semester 1 and semester 2, and think of it as more of a full year class that people take, but not all of them will run that way. And so that's why we're breaking it down per semester. And also, it gives families opportunity to jump in twice a year or to jump out twice a year rather than just the once a year. And we can bring in families in August and in January, or if it's just not a good fit for a family, it's a little too taxing on their schedule, they're only locked into that semester, not to a full year. So I think that'll be really beneficial on both ends of that. The next part is that people are always wondering, what is this going to cost? Is this going to be expensive? Is our family going to be able to afford it? And I will just say on the front end that we are setting this up in such a way that I don't believe any family won't be able to participate because of money. In fact, with the way this is broken down, if any family came to me and said, "We love to do it, we just can't afford it," I'm pretty sure we could find a way to fundraise the money for them because we're going to keep this so affordable. So hear me on the front end. We want everyone to be able to participate. We don't want money to be a barrier for anyone being involved in this co-op. So with that being said, here's the cost breakdown. The enrollment fee will be $20 per child per semester. Okay. So $20 per child per semester. So if you had 5 kids, that's $100 a semester. If you have 2 kids, that's $40 a semester. All right. So and that's across the board. There's no like family discount. Like after 5, they're all free. It'd be $20 per child per family. And with that, that'll include any kid who's participating in the co-op. So if they're going to be in the nursery all morning, then it's $20. If they're in 11th grade and they're going to be in different courses throughout time, it's $20. So straight across the board. The only exception to that is if a mom, say, is still nursing her baby and she's going to be carrying her baby around with her all morning. She's not putting them in the nursery. She's going to be wearing or carrying her child all morning. We're not going to require them to pay that enrollment fee because they're not really participating in the nursery or in one of the classes. They're just there with their mom the whole time. We'll exclude them from that cost. But besides that, anyone that's going to really be participating in the program will pay that $20 fee per semester per child. The second fee is associated to a facility fee, and this will apply to all non-members. And that's so people who aren't members of our local church, and they'll have to pay a fee of $50 per child per semester with a max of $100 for families. So this one is not per child across the board. The most a family would have to pay is $100 per semester of a facility fee. And this is just to help us run the utilities of having all the lights, heat, air, electricity, as well as, running through more toilet paper and all those sorts of things. That running the facility here at the church one more day a week. But we're only charging this to non-members because members, as you're tithing and giving of your normal offerings to the church, you're the one who pays the light bill. You're the one who helps keep this facility running. So we're not going to have you pay an additional fee. You're already helping subsidize those costs through your normal giving to the church. We're just asking for families that aren't members of our local church to chip that in to help us be able to basically just keep the lights on. We're not trying to profit off this. It's just a way to help subsidize the cost of the additional facility burden on us as a local church. All right. So that's those two really main fees to participate. And just to kind of give the total number of what that looked like, if you weren't a member of our church and you had 5 kids, that would be $200 a semester for your whole family. That would cover all the core fees associated. If you were a member of our church and you had 5 kids, it would be $100 a semester. All right. So I think that's pretty affordable. And again, if you couldn't cover that, say you're like, I just couldn't pay the $200, come talk to us. Again, I think we could fundraise that $200 fairly easily. So I don't want money to be a reason why anyone can't come. There's 2 additional costs on top of this that aren't required, aren't necessary. What I just covered, that's necessary to participate. These 2 other things would be optional, and that is that particular elective courses may have an associated supply fee. So you might want to choose an elective that has an additional cost to it. That's optional. You don't have to select those electives. But say, for example, if we offer a cooking class, they might need to offer a supply fee of like $20 for the semester just to help them cover, buying some of the food that they need. And they can be pretty scrappy with that. You think a couple of 25-pound sacks of flour, you can do quite a bit with, especially when you're only looking at 45-minute chunks each week. They're not going to be exorbitant supply fees. If you do an art class, same sort of thing. They might need some money just to buy some of those art materials to learn from. But all of these we're going to try to keep very reasonable, very affordable, and optional. So a kid can take 3 elective courses every semester all the way through Boniface and never have to pay a supply fee. We're pretty committed to that. We're going to have lots of free elective options for kids to choose from. But some of them we're already not paying our teachers anything. They're just volunteers. And so we don't expect them to buy their own supplies. If they need to purchase supplies, they're free to offer a supply fee associated with their course. But that all that will be disclosed. That will be at parents' discretion on what they select for their kids. So that would be one secondary fee, and the second secondary fee would be the field trips that we offer. Some of them are going to be free field trips with no cost associated. Others may have a cost. If we're going to a museum or something like that that required an entry fee, that would be on the family to pay any field trip costs that are associated with that. But those field trips, again, are optional. So neither of those things, whether it's a supply fee or a field trip fee, or will be mandatory for families, but it's potential that there will be some additional costs with that. But again, we're going to keep those as low as we possibly can. We want this to be affordable for families. That's one of our core commitments. So those are the costs. A breakdown. What will be the process to enroll? This is the last thing I will hit on this video. And the process for enrollment is really a 3-step process. The first is you would need to fill out a family application. This is basically just our way of our church approving that your family is a good fit for the co-op. And so this is step one. And again, we're not trying to build a massive co-op. We're trying to build a quality co-op. So we want to make sure the families that are participating are a good fit. And what we mean by good fit here is that they have the same view of education that we do. They want to give their children education that's committed to Christ, that's under the lordship of Christ. It's not merely that they don't want their kids in some other school, but it's what that they want to give their kids a distinctively Christian education, and that they're of like mind theologically. Not that they maybe check every particular that we do, but they're on the same general orthodoxy stream that we are, the same general views of doctrine, that things like learning the Baptist catechism with us during chapel isn't going to be a major conflict to their core theological beliefs. They're in that general stream and they're happy to participate along with us. All right. So that would be a first aspect, is completing that family application. The second aspect of it will be going through course enrollment. So once the family application is approved and we release the various courses that are going to be offered, families will be sent a course enrollment packet. And that's in that packet, along with other just normal registration sort of forms that they'll fill out in that, will be them selecting which courses they want their child to partake of in that upcoming semester. So that will need to be turned in. And when that course enrollment form is turned in, that's when they will turn in any enrollment fees, as well as, if they're not a member, turn in their facility fee with that course enrollment packet. So that's step 2. And then step 3 is just, once you know what electives your kids are in, if they chose any elective courses that had a supply fee, those supply fees will be due 2 weeks prior to the classes starting. That'll give teachers time to purchase any materials they need for that first day. You can't just show up on the first day and pay your supply fees. Those will need to be in 2 weeks prior to the co-op starting. So really 3 steps, pretty simple. Family application. Once that's completed and we're ready to release the course enrollment forms, which we'll release on July 1st, we'll send those out, get that course enrollment form in with your core fees, the enrollment fee and the facility fee. And then finally, once you know your kid's final schedule and what their supply fees will be, you'll just need the supply fees in 2 weeks prior to the first week of class. So that's the process. That's what we discussed. Then we did a Q&A time where people were able to ask questions. So if you have personal questions, please reach out to me with them. But that being said, I'm just going to conclude by saying we're excited for this. We feel like we are running in the lane the Lord has us to run in. And by God's grace, we really want to use this to glorify Him, to instill not just knowledge in our kids, but help train our children to love the things that God loves, to hate the things He hates, to know how to use their life for His glory. And I think this is going to be a wonderful way to disciple them in these matters and to partner with parents in the good work that they're doing. So if you have any questions, please reach out. And we're excited to see what the Lord will do with this ministry. Grace and peace to you all.